Christ-like thief, after a life of destitution and being exploited, encounters the alchemist, a spiritual teacher who trains him, educates him, and introduces him to a group of disciples from across the galaxy, eccentrics with histories of capitalist greed, profiting from war and genocide, each of them sharing a common goal: discovering the Holy Mountain, overthrowing its elders, and achieving immortality. To do so, they must sacrifice the connections to their past selves, burning their wealth, effigies of themselves as a spiritual rebirth, so that the group of individuals learn to experience life as a single whole. This is Alejandro Jodorowsky's psychedelic absurdist cult classic, The Holy Mountain. Once a filmmaker who struggled to finance his works, The Holy Mountain an example of his lack of financial success, and now a legend of his craft, Jodorowsky's filmmaking style is an inimitable fusion of multiple theologies which personally inspire him, satiric commentary criticising fascism and capitalism, as well as balancing the disturbing with the life-affirming, that in the search for purpose, even immortality is possible, making the director one of the greatest carnivalesque showmen of cinema. Early in The Holy Mountain, Jodorowsky establishes fascist militias parading the streets, murdering dissidents, and the privilege of tourists who view violent atrocities as a travel destination, taking photographs of the dead and dying. Early on, The Holy Mountain aims for scathing satire, criticising dictatorial authoritarianism and the inherent capitalist greed of making a profit from a nation's political upheaval. Jodorowsky seems to connote fascism with capitalism. For example, the way numerous disciples within the film, representatives across the galaxy, rule their factories with an iron fist in the name of profit, producing toys of war, weaponry, or even financially benefiting from genocide. This is why The Holy Mountain is intent on dismantling its portrayal of capitalism. Before the characters begin their spiritual journey towards immortality, the motivation to search for immortality itself is similar selfishness to economic greed. They must sacrifice their material wealth, no matter how reluctant they may be, by burning their money, and even burning effigies of their likenesses. The intent is to separate themselves from the past on their journey towards spiritual renewal. This is one example of how Alejandro Jodorowsky's film strives to overthrow capitalism by completely rejecting it, but we can also see anti-capitalist notions throughout the film in other scenes. By introducing each disciple individually with a brief backstory into their profession, we can recognise that they all placed great significance on wealth, ignoring any ethics in favour of profit. Jodorowsky is intent on portraying this capitalism as a form of evil, where millions can be gassed, children socialised into racist violence, and workers can be exploited as long as it makes them money. Through Jodorowsky's lens, this is a force which needs overturning. By contrast, the thief, a Christ-like figure by appearance, is exploited early on. He is kidnapped, and a mould is made of his body so cheap crucifixes can be produced, a business practice he swiftly overthrows by whipping his oppressors dressed as Romans, halting their means of production by regaining consciousness. It may be that the reason the alchemist sees potential in the thief as a protege is due to the fact that the thief has already struggled under the influence of opportunist oppressors. A significant aspect of The Holy Mountain is its thematic focus on rebirth and redemption. The thief, a penniless vagrant wandering the streets aimlessly, is lifted into the alchemist's tower, willing to fight the man, but instead undergoes a healing, learning rite of passage, where he begins to understand how to undo his past failures, disconnecting from the self which once was. A reinvention before the journey to immortality. We see this notion of redemption condensed within a sequence where the alchemist transforms the thief's shit into gold. The laborious process exhausts the thief, leaving him sweating, disoriented, but ultimately the sequence depicts the efforts undertaken for effective redemption, an analogy of how even the used, the broken, the undesirable can become renewed. The film depicts similar strenuous efforts towards redemption during the spiritual trek of the group of disciples, becoming a unified singularity. The closer they are to the summit of the Holy Mountain, the more challenging their hallucinations become, reflecting their deepest fears, carnal lusts, and greed. To become truly redeemed, they are encouraged to overcome and endure these absurdist delusions, despite the clear strain in doing so. We can't discuss the Holy Mountain without acknowledging its unpredictable ending. The disciples have reached the summit, redeemed in the eyes of the alchemist, who has encouraged them to attack the elders awaiting at the top. Discovering that the elders were never real, their bodies are mannequins, and their existence was an illusion, the alchemist being the true conjurer all along. The disciples, and the audience, are told that the creation of images becomes immortality. The camera zooms out to reveal the film crew and cast, jovial in mood, understanding that in becoming a part of the film, they too are immortal. This ending becomes Alejandro Jodorowsky's last showman trick within the Holy Mountain. The realization that images are forever, and possibly that some aspirations may be illusions which lead us down other purposeful pathways. It is not the Holy Mountain which is the source of immortality, but the camera itself. In conclusion, Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain is a vibrant cacophony of surrealist humour, violence, terror, and the life-affirming notion that everybody has the internal potential to reinvent themselves. Filled with scathing satiric criticism towards the corruptions of capitalism and fascism, Jodorowsky also theorises that the source of immortality lies within imagery, within the camera, and that seems to be the truth, even long after the film has finished. If we continue to remember it, discuss it, and interpret it, Jodorowsky's proposal of immortality remains true. Within this film, these characters, the actors, the film crew, all remains eternal, and through this eternity, cinema should be forever. A special thank you to my incredible tier Patreon supporter Gil, and to my super tier Patreon supporter Constantine Bombelli, Jamie and Milkway.